Like many good things in life, Runewars Miniature Game, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. I can't do another Fantasty Flight collectible game because it's just too much. Because you go and buy the core set and then you open it and you go, oh, this is cool, I like the gameplay, right? And then, oh, there's an expansion out in a week, and then I have to get some extra dice for it for some reason, and I have to buy another core set because my life doesn't feel complete with just one, and there's another expansion in a month, and there's a whole big extra it's just, I can't handle it anymore. What is even in this thing? What did you get here? It's just like a box of minis and cardboard again, and there's more cardboard, and ooh, these actually look quite nice. This is a nice horse, and whoa.
Where's that? Yeah. We're all got different colours, yeah, that's convenient.
How much is that?
Is this...
Now that Efka's gone, we can try that again. Like the best things in life, Runewars is a simple proposition. Whether you're asked out on a date by the guy that sleeps behind your shed, or your doctor's requested to discuss your test results in person, or whether playing a two-player miniature war game, you know what you're getting yourself into. In Runewars, you will be playing an army of skeletons or humans, or elves or demons when they're released, and you'll do your best to beat each other into submission using plastic dice and cardboard templates.
Here at No Pun Included, we are board gamers, and when we look at Runewars, the miniature game, we are looking at it from a board gamer's perspective, and we want you to go into this video knowing that. However, having said that, what makes you choose one war game over another? Well, it's three things, three elements, three sides of the coin to grab your wallet and in the darkness binding. First is the world. It's the setting where your armies live, breathe, and fight. Maybe setting alone is not what draws people in, but it could be enough to hook you. And sometimes it is the sole thing that keeps you invested. That and the hundreds of pounds you already spent on the plastic, and you just don't want to stop them because that would be awkward, wouldn't it? Runewars is set in this comically large box, but also in Terranov, and I can hear you saying, what enough? Yes, that's exactly how I feel about it as well. Terranov is Fantasy Flight's proprietary back-to-basics fantasy setting, and they have quite a few games in their line set in that world, and I understand why they chose it, but if I were a betting man and I had to put down a fiver, I gladly would to say that probably no one's really a fan. And not because there's something bad about it, it's just that there's likely not very much to be a fan of. Thankfully, Runewars intends to fix that with this included lore guide.
Secondly, there are the miniatures, and let the haters hate because you know where it's at. And these aren't just beautifully crafted bits of plastic, my friends. Oh no, they are avatars, they're extensions of yourself. Whether it's a glowing rock man or a huge, giant, sticky, pustulant slug being ridden by a skeleton. And you don't just buy these, you assemble them, you paint them in your colours, you make them your own. But because this game is as new as a sticky baby, the best is yet to come. So to evaluate just how awesome these minis are, we at NPI have come up with a foolproof and very scientific method of comparing awesomeness on a level of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Michael Bay's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. First Firstly, we have what is clearly the most awesome mini of the game, and shush now all you Rune Golem fans. And then we have the closest equivalent that the competitor had that we could find for an undead slug, the Canoptic Wraith. At which point you might say, hey, surely the competitor has many more TMNT level miniatures, and this Wraith thing isn't even from their fantasy line. And you would be correct. But they've also had literal decades on Rune Wars. Also, it's our foolproof scientific method, so stop complaining. First, we have to evaluate the postulants. This is a category where the carrion slug is the clear winner. The Canoptic Wraith has not a single bit of slime, pus, pimple or dripping saliva, no contest. Second, the carapace. The Wraith has slick metallic plating, whereas the slug has a rough exoskeleton scales. This one's a 50-50. And finally, there's the undead category. Sorry, my producers are telling me that actually this is all nonsense because people can see for themselves and decide what they like better. Actually, we have no producers. We just didn't know how to end this silly sketch.
Right, Terranov, this lore guide. This is awful. I mean, it's very rare that I read a guide on a setting and actually feel like I know the exact same amount of information than before I did reading it. I mean, we don't want to be harsh to this because someone spent a lot of time working on it, but it's hard to argue for something that doesn't fulfill its most basic function. I mean, it has stuff in it, like it has a lot of nouns with capital letters that you don't recognize. It has a lot of nice artwork and it's padded out with the sort of fiction that you would expect to find here, and on top of that, these wonderfully prosaic descriptors such as little lives in this empty landscape, for nothing here is meant to live. Does it matter? Well, to some it might, and for me the inclusion of a good setting is certainly important. I mean, half the reason the X-Wing Miniatures game is so successful is because it's frigging Star Wars, and I get why Fantasy Flight chose Terranov. It is the safe choice. They own the license entirely, they don't have to answer to anyone's creative vision, and they can shape it however they like. So I get why it made sense to someone at Fantasy Flight, but just because it did, it doesn't mean that we have to fall head over heels for it. So far we've got 1 for 1. The minis are great, the setting not so much, but it's the important one that's remaining, because if the gameplay is good, the rest doesn't matter. The game is a hit.
And that's why Fantasy Flight pulls no punches. They've combined 2 of their most popular games. Star Wars X-Wing Miniatures Game is still their best-selling game, so why not use the lessons they've learned and implement them here? As before, you have miniatures on plastic bases, cardboard dials that players secretly turn to determine what their units are going to do, and movement templates that will forever abolish the tape measure to your personal drawer of crap so that you won't actually know where it is when you need it, like because you bought a desk that you need to measure or something. But there is one profound difference. Instead of setting 1 dial for each unit, you will be setting 2. One will determine which action you take and one will give you a bonus, but it will only give you a bonus if the colour matches the action that you're taking. So for example, you could move forward, but instead of just moving like a mindless buffalo, you could add the bonus action to curve left or right, like a curving buffalo, or you could even charge, like a charging buffalo. Actually, that's not actually that funny. If, as part of your movement, you collide with an enemy unit, you get a panic token, and you really don't want a panic token, and your action ends. If, however, you use the charge bonus as part of your movement, then you get to attack them instead. But if you don't manage to quite reach them with your charge, well, you get a panic token because you've fluffed the charge and everyone's now demoralised. Well done. See, this is all great because it gives you a ton of tasty decisions to make, but the single most important decision is initiative. Each of these attack values has an initiative value tied to it, which will determine where you're going to go in turn order. Yeah, you could go really early by choosing this yellow 3, but then you won't be able to get the attack bonus. There is also a red attaction, but But it's a value of 7, which means that half your army might be dead by the time they get a chance to swing their swords. What we have here, boys and girls, is what we call in the industry a programming game, meaning it's like the director of an amateur play. The stage is set. We bark orders at our actors and watch them self-destruct as unanticipated complications occur, and then the second lead accidentally stabs the understudy. There's blood everywhere! And then we realise that we only really have ourselves to blame because we're not really as good as we thought we were, and eventually we give up and maybe get a job at the local Staples or something. Anyway, therein lies the rub. Whilst the system itself is very similar to X-Wing, it's how initiatives are determined that make for a very different game. Before, you had some idea of when your opponents were going to go and based your decisions around that, but now everything is up in the air. Of course, all the possible initiative values are public knowledge, and gameplay comes from anticipating what your opponent is going to do. Whether you like that or not depends entirely on you, but we found it a little vexing to discover the experience of maybe my opponent is double bluffing my double bluffing, and maybe they want me to think what I think they're thinking that I think. Or something like that. You get the idea. But there is something to be said for when the ones and zeros of what is going on fall into place and you manage to take just the right action and your horsemen storm in and gloriously slaughter all the stupid archers before they've even managed to fire a single arrow. Of course, this gets further complicated by upgrade cards that each unit can carry. I don't really care if the enemy can attack me earlier if all they're attacking is thin air, and after they've finished swatting bees with swords I can go in and stomp on them a little. But if they're carrying the file leader upgrade card, the fact that they've gone early in initiative and done nothing doesn't really matter, because if I charge in now they will still be able to show me what bones are made of. You thought it was marrow, didn't you? It's not. It's whoop-ass.
Runewars is a rank and file game, and that doesn't mean it's a game about hierarchical bureaucrats. It means that your miniatures come on trays. And what's more, in Runewars, just wait for it, they are interconnecting trays. I know, right? Each tray snaps onto each other, and the point cost of your units depends on what formation you make out of those trays. What's even cooler is that you can actually put unit upgrades into your units. So if you feel like your spearmen really need a Hulk in their front line, well, you've got one, and it's smashing everything in sight.
And the funny thing is, you'd think that more trays and more figures would mean rolling more dice. Nuh-uh! And that's where the second borrowed mechanism comes in, the dice from Descent. Each hit symbol on a dice will cause a hit. Each surge symbol will let you activate special abilities. Each skull will immediately cause a wound bypassing shields, which is relevant when you're fighting beefy things, and accuracy symbols will let you single out and destroy figure upgrades. And of course there are 3 different dice with different distributions of values. No matter how many plastic toy soldiers you snap together, your unit will always roll what's pictured on their unit card, aside from when you manage to sneak up from a flank, and then you get to add an extra die. But each tray in the front line will multiply the damage you get from your hits. 1 damage per hit for 1 tray, 2 per 2, and so on. And a full line of trays behind the front line will add rerolls. And of course, the more figures you have, the longer it takes to kill them. It's all good, because when it comes to building armies, you get to make decisions like, do you have lots of little units that roll lots of dice and can flank easily? Or do you have big clusters that can punch like Rocky Balboa punches a cow carcass? That's the theory. Anyway, it's really hard to build an army with just the core set. You get some humans and some skeletons, like one lady in the entire box, and they're in a never-ending battle surrounded by cardboard 2D terrain. That is until the sweet release of an army expansion comes. So we can't really tell you a lot about army building.
No, wait. It's cool. I got the second core set. It's fine. It adds things. There's more archers, more rune golems, more horses. I really like the horses. And there's more skeletons as well. And the shields are falling down, but that's fine. And there's more spearmen. And I also got army expansions. That's really important because with army expansions, that's actually from the second core set as well. But with army expansions, you get even more horses because horses are amazing. And there's another horse. That's a horse. And also, you get more archers, even though I hate your archers, but who cares? You know, they're just, it's fine. And you get these dudes that are like, they're like, you can put them into the army, and this one has a giant horn, and this one's like an old dude, and you know, they don't fit, but it's okay. We'll get a bigger temple. And there's more. There's the skeleton that carries a skeleton, and it's a skeleton at the same time. It's like skeletonception.
Wait, how the hell did you afford all this?
The biggest problem with just one core set is that you don't get enough toys to play around with because there's just not enough in one box. And to make matters worse, they've included cards, because this is a core box and it gives you everything you need, that set up cool missions like getting behind enemy lines or setting up opportunistic flanking positions that box wants to fly. But you can't actually use any of that until you get yourself a proper 200-point army, which there's way not enough stuff here to make from. And I can already sense a disturbance in the force as X-Wing fans are cowering fear at the prospect of collecting every single unit ever made for this game just so they have all the upgrade cards, even from different armies. Even though one Fantasy Flight Games representative has told us that Fantasy Flight has learned their lessons from X-Wing, and you will not be required to do that. Whether that's actually true or not remains to be seen. And on top of everything, there's already one unit in the core set, Carrie Ravestalker, who is half human and half elf, and that means you can include elven units into your army. And you know what that means to your wallet, don't you? Even though elves haven't even been released yet.
Here's where we made a big mistake. The core box gives you about 100 points worth of figures plus upgrade cards that you can give to your units. So we thought if we had 2 core boxes plus some army expansions, we would be able to build some pretty cool armies. And whilst it did let us get to the 200-point army, which is the standard number, without feeling like we'd put in every unit and every card that we possibly could just to get to that number, it still felt it was lacking in something.
And then it dawned on us. This feeling, it's never going to go away. It's not that there's not enough stuff that we have, it's that it's never going to be enough, which is a feeling I'm sure many miniature wargame collectors are very familiar with. But there are still some things, regardless of that, that irked us about the component restrictions in the game. We mentioned the upgrade cards already and how Fantasy Flight promised that, you know, you're going to get all the upgrades that you need in just your army unit packs. And whilst this situation might change, we have already found some upgrade cards that are neutral and can theoretically be equipped to any army that are unique in only one army's expansion packs. And on top of that, let's talk about these maneuver dials. You see, if you want to create a thin line of troops, like a meat shield that protects your actual army, you can't really do that because you only have one maneuver dial per 4 trays of skeletons, right? Or spearmen if you want to. And that is annoying because if you actually want to have this thin line, you need to buy double the miniatures just so you have enough of these dials so you can make that work. And it's a real shame that component limitations restrict how creative you can be about army building. And whilst that's far and away from the biggest sins that miniature war games have committed, it is yet another one in a long line of them. There's still plenty of toys to play around with. Can you succeed with an army entirely composed out of cavalry, or maybe have an army where you have a front meat shield and a rear composed entirely out of archers? Who knows? It's actually too prohibitively expensive for us to find that out. But what I do have to say is that whilst nothing feels particularly brave about this standard trope of fantasy army toys, aside of course from the slug and the rune golem, At least the cavalry does feel like the cavalry, and the archers do feel like the archers. In one of my games, I had my cavalry hide in a forest because I thought that that was a good idea, seeing my horsemen emerge from a copse and just charge into the rear flank, completely taking my opponent by surprise, only to find out that horses aren't actually very good in trees, and they're especially not good at turning around when you find out that your opponent can easily block your exit and then you can't go forward, so you must go outside or backwards, and horses are just, they just spend the entire game in there. And that's actually funny. I found that quite amusing.
Two of the things that break up the monotony are Boons and Banes and the morale deck. Runewars saves one cool pony trick up its sleeve for last. Kids, don't hide ponies up your sleeves. It will ruin your clothes. And possibly your arms. Boons are nothing special, they're tokens that you get and they have positive effects, but Banes are tokens that you can spend if your opponent has them.
Let's say one of your opponent's units, in this case the reanimates, have an immobilized token on them and they're about to charge you, and you don't want them to charge you because what you've got set on your movement dial is to charge as well, and if they charge you and attack you first, you can't charge them back because there's no one to charge. They're right in front of you, meaning you lose your action. But, of course, instead of letting them perform any movement action at all, you can spend this immobilized token and then they don't get to move. And that's what's so genius about Runewars, is that you can spend this token. You don't have to. The tactical decision is entirely up to you, but you still got that power in your hands, and it just sits there. At any point you can go, yeah, it's my thing. But then when you eventually do charge someone with your cavalry, you'll give them a panic token. And panic tokens can happen from various reasons. But then after you've attacked them, you can spend any number of panic tokens. So let's say that you spend 3 panic tokens. That means you get to draw 3 cards from this deck. And they have panic values as well. But because I've spent 3, I can choose any one of these cards and then resolve it. And I'm not going to spoil what's in this deck, but let's say it's just incredibly satisfying to charge someone with your cavalry, and then they're so scared that they just kind of go, oh, it's just gonna turn our backs around for you, you know, for your convenience with the sword, so you can hit our backs, because that's just, we're nice like that. Oh, it feels so good.
But Runewars commits one final sin, and that are these trays, because they are the worst, they really are. At first you'll be all excited, snapping them together, but then you'll realise they're just a bit of a hassle because they don't unsnap particularly well. And you'll find yourself lifting up your trays of ever-dwindling units just to get them apart, which is not very convenient. And neither is overlapping these movement templates over the units to see where they're moving to, especially if you decide to use 3D terrain.
Regardless of all the sins that Runewars commits, we still think it's worth it because there's a lot of neat, nifty little tricks here. The dice mechanism from Descent, it worked in Descent and it works here just fine, because it's not just numbers of dice versus numbers of dice. You actually get to make meaningful decisions when you roll these, and sometimes you get to chance it like a lunatic on the off chance that you'll roll the exact right symbol and you'll activate the ability on your card and you'll be the hero of the day. And these command dials are great because they streamline the gameplay, and I would be hard-pressed to find another miniatures game with such simple rules where exciting things happen every turn. And building your army is easy because you don't need any army books or extra rules or anything like that. Everything you need is just on the back of this card that you get with the miniature. It's fun, it's innovative, it's fast, and it's just, the minis look great, don't they? I mean, they are really, really nice minis. And they're easy to paint. But most importantly, Runewars feels like a war game. It feels like you're fighting with big fantasy armies, which is no mean feat, considering it borrows half of its mechanisms from board games and the other half from a spaceship miniature skirmish game. And here's our recommendation with Runewars. If you want it, get it, but go big or go home. You know, go ham on the entire thing. Get yourself a bigger table, because whatever you have is probably not enough. It needs a 3x6 play area, and get yourself some 3D terrain, and get yourself some paints and watch a painting tutorial, and just just enjoy yourself, you know, go for the whole experience, because war games, they're not just a gameplay experience, they're a visual experience, and they're an experience that requires your time and attention, and most importantly, it requires a lot of your money. And if you don't want to spend that money, that's entirely fine, because there are many other games out there, and many of them are truly great. If you enjoyed this video, then you better go buy 6 core boxes of Runewars. Oh, Darren, I'm not your father. Darth Vader is your father. That's a bit awkward, isn't it? If you don't want Darth Vader to be your father, you better subscribe to this channel right now, where we have a review video every Thursday, and it's viewer-powered reviews. So, you know, it's like sponsored by you people. It's what you people want, and we deliver that. You want this, right? Am I right? You want this? You want this face? Click the thing. This face, click the thing. This face, click the thing.